Hi, Emmanuel. I'm Eileen Frueh, and I'm sitting here talking to my good friend and neighbor, Laura Yordy. I often get to walk down the street and sit on Laura's porch, and we talk about all kinds of things, but we thought we would share a little bit of our conversation with you all today. Laura, in addition to being my friend, is the retired associate professor of religion and philosophy at Bridgewater College. And she writes and teaches about ethics, Christian ethics, and particularly about the environment. So she's been working on a very cool project. So I wanted to ask her about it. So Laura, why don't you tell us about what your latest research is?
Right, thank you. Climate change is a huge deal and is also something I've been working on for a while from a Christian perspective. And this particular project is my attempt to bring together climate issues and fiction. We know that fiction has a long history in terms of ethics, narratives in general, fictions. I mean, just think offhand about, C.S. Lewis, for instance. And what fiction can provide is a kind of condensed real life experience. It gives us an opportunity to see the world from someone else's eyes, who may be in circumstances very, very different from our own, or somewhat similar to our own, but seeing the world differently. And so climate ethics, I think, needs that. There is a lot of climate fiction out there now. Most of it is dystopian. That is, it's looking at what's the worst case scenario and how can we live through it? Can anybody live through it? Almost all of it, the authors regard religion very negatively, as if religion is part of the problem, or it's inconsequential, or maybe it matters now, but surely we'll all grow out of it. And that's odd to me, because 85% of the world's population still affiliates with a religious tradition, and because I am a Christian, I belong to a congregation, we are mandated, called to look after creation. And of course, what climate change shows us is that we've been doing a rather poor job of this. So I was looking for Christian fiction written by climate fiction written by confessional Christians. Turns out there's hardly any out there. I'm not sure why, but I looked and looked and I found a few things. And there are several different ways I think this kind of thing could be helpful. It can help us see what it would be like as faithful people to live in a more climate-friendly way. I think for a lot of people, the specter of climate change, and particularly these dystopian scenarios, make it sound as if we're going to be, I don't know, stuck in a basement with candles and nothing else. But that's certainly not necessarily so. We need images of what that life could be in a way that's enriching, in a way that's faithful, and maybe even fun. I think fiction, particularly Christian fiction, can also help us along the way. What are some ways that we can engage with and respond to climate change that work within our tradition? And the third part is fiction that focuses on the people who are bearing the brunt of this, which is not typically those of us in the Shenandoah Valley. although I can tell you about some effects. But as we know, people on the coasts, people in developing countries, and most of us don't know what that feels like. So fiction that is written from those kinds of perspectives, I think, can also be particularly helpful in thinking about climate justice and how we might respond to that.
Do you think if there's climate fiction, which I've heard you call cli-fi, which makes me laugh, climate fiction from a Christian perspective necessarily deals with hope? Is that got to be a component of it?
Well, that's interesting. Despair is a sin,
Mhm.
but fear isn't.
Mhm.
So I think maybe fear and hope. I haven't thought about that. I know personally, I look for hope.
Mhm.
But I don't know if it would be necessary. The books that I have seen from Christian perspective are hopeful, but that's a small slice.
You've told me if people wanted to explore a book in our own tradition that is a fiction account that deals with climate, you've told me that there's one from an Episcopal, is it minister or bishop, a woman?
Well, she's a bishop now. Yeah. This is a book I stumbled across. Let's see, can you see it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's called Of Green Stuff Woven by Kathleen Bascom, who is now the Bishop of Kansas, which I think is just really cool. It's a fictionalized version of her time as Dean of the Cathedral in Des Moines. And so it takes place over a small period of time, but there are a lot of factors coming to bear. The cathedral, like probably most, needs money. The building is crumbling. We're familiar with that. The programs are underfunded. It's struggling. The cathedral owns a plot of land that they, the members of the congregation, have restored to the original sort of prairie that was in that area before it all got developed. And they're still working on it. It's fairly new. They're taking out invasive plants. They're still planting native plants. So that's very much a part of their church life. You can see part of it through the church windows. It's included in prayers. Sometimes the plants are brought into the church, all that sort of thing. And then at the same time, a development company comes and offers a huge amount of money to buy that land and then build on it. So you've got that conflict. Another piece that's coming in is the Des Moines River is in a huge flood. One of these, once every 50 years floods that now is once a decade. And the flood endangers in particular the community of people of color and poor people behind the levee. So the little plot of prairie not only holds symbolic value, but soaks up a lot of water that would otherwise contribute to the flood. So all these pieces are coming to bear on the whole question of what do they do?
There's probably a lot of people that remember when Dave Rapp's garden was an integral part of our church as well. Well, I know these Wednesday words are supposed to be relatively short, and I would love to talk to you about this more. And I think if other people are interested in talking to more, they can grab you at church or reach out to you by email to talk about these ideas even more. So thank you. It was great. It was great.
Thank you.
Always. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.